All right, guys. I had a thought come to me and I wanted to share it, at least capture it in some way. It's a bit of an existential thought, kind of about divinity and God and all that good stuff. But I want to frame it in the way of the mirror that everybody talks about. So I want to start by talking about the mirror, kind of like my thoughts on that, about how we kind of everything that's kind of going on in our inner worlds that we need to work on. And it can be chaotic and confusing because there could be so many limiting beliefs, so many flaws within us that we need to kind of work out to become our truest, highest selves, or to find God, or to find inner love, or so many other ways that we can kind of flip this around and think about it. I think it's really all that kind of stuff, but that's a part of that mess and that confusion. So, just to kind of clarify what I mean by the mirror, it's when you kind of like look at the world as trying to help you. It's reflecting back to you who you are, what your flaws are, and what's going on. Let me give you just one example of many examples. Let's say that maybe you have some anger issues, or maybe you're emotional or something like that. Well, the people around you, or even strangers, if you push that type of energy or that type of hateful speech or anything like that out into the world, even loved ones or friends, if they love you enough, they might overlook that and just allow it. But the rest of the world that doesn't know you or anything like that is going to reflect that back to you. And sometimes it's going to be in a direct conversation where, like, maybe you're angry and maybe you don't realize it, or maybe you just, that's the way you are. Somebody else might return that with more anger and correct you, or try to correct you, or create some argument. It could be confusing or anything like that. So that kind of thing, that's kind of like the world being treated as a mirror. And it shows up in many different ways. I won't go into all the details. There's a lot of stuff out there that talk about this. I'm giving you one example through a person, but I mean, you can have this happen to you in many different ways, and in many different experiences, I guess, too. And not just people to people interaction, people to inner environment interaction, people to nature interaction, people to technology and social media. Books can reflect this back to you. You know, there's so many different ways that it can happen. And if you believe in synchronicities, patterns, signs, and symbols, it can come through a lot of different ways too. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm saying by the mirror. It's really the world. And I found this to be very true. I understand that we sometimes get a little bit caught up in our own worlds or what we think, and we try to control everything. So our egos sometimes get in the way, and we give ourselves lies and things that just kind of coddle our egos to make us feel better, to make us feel like we're in control, when most of the time we're not. You know, there's a time for control and there's not. And I talk about all this stuff. That's discernment and such. So let me get into the existential part of this that I think is interesting. It kind of helped me arrive at this thought in kind of a strange sequence of getting here. But one of the things that helped me think about in a different way was, if the mirror idea is really true, here's where like a paradox kind of comes up from that. Because if the world seems to be trying to help you all the time, doesn't that make you at the center of the world? Doesn't that make you kind of godlike? You know, everybody's trying to refine you, and you're the one that's in the seat of consciousness within you. So doesn't that make you God? Doesn't that make you, it's kind of your world, and everybody else just kind of lives in it? Do you know what I mean? It almost makes you seem like you're in a simulation or something like Matrix-like. So that made me really kind of think about that even further. Like, well, yeah, kind of, it does. But then how does that fit everybody else into free will and them being able to be people? And that made me come up to this kind of conclusion on this, is that our bodies are like claimed real estate out here, okay? It's where we're able to perceive reality. It's where we're able to interact with reality. It's where we're able to sit and think and observe and interact and be a part of this world. So the way that that makes it, or the way that that kind of evolves into an actual thought here, if you think about it, is that, you know, this is our boundaries. This is what allows us to be here and be perspective to other people. That makes us a fragment. That makes us a piece of this world. So we aren't the ocean. We aren't the universe. We aren't the sky. We aren't the world. We are a piece of that, and we are connected to that, and all of that is within us too. It's all one big piece, but we're not all of it at the same time, simultaneously. Like God is, if you believe in energies and all that kind of stuff. That's how I kind of like to look at God. God is what keeps the energy and everything that's going out here moving and alive, and nature and me and you and the universe and the trees and the plants and even just the empty space that's all around us right now. There's energy everywhere. There's energy flow. Some of it's good, some of it's chaotic, some of it's bad. But it's all what keeps this whole system going. There's death and decay. There's peace and war. There's black and white. You know what I'm saying? There's so much complexity out here, but it's all, in my opinion, it's all God. But so are we. We're a piece of that. That's what's running through us. That's what's giving us energy. That's what's giving us consciousness and all of that kind of stuff. So kind of where does that leave us on all of this? How does that tie in other people into this picture? Well, everybody gets their own claimed real estate, okay? We all have our own bodies to interact and be a part of this. And, they also get their own lessons too as mirrors. So when we decide to return that energy or maybe even be at peace and allow it to be on its own, for instance, if somebody shows up to you and maybe you're a peaceful person and you have transcended or you're spiritual or you love yourself, and another person doesn't love themselves and they still need to learn and they're still on their own journey. Well, as long as you don't get too emotional when somebody kind of approaches you, and you can just stand there and understand that, hey, at one point you were that person too. Again, you might still be on that journey. So maybe you are still that person, still need to learn. But I'm saying, let's say that you've transcended that, and you can acknowledge a person going through something that you went through and you struggled with. Then you have a couple of options there, right? At this point, you're in control and you're able to maybe help another person. So when that happens, you can try to give them the medicine that you would have liked, or even just leave it alone, right? Somebody's bringing anger to you. It's up to you how you want to treat that. Hopefully you don't return it with more hate or anger, because that doesn't solve anything if you've ever been through that. But you can try to reason with them. You can try to give them some space. You can kind of try to model to them how maybe they need to react, or even tell them, hey, you need to work on that. Or, that's something I struggled with, and you try to be human. You show them an example or an experience or a story or something that you have. You try to connect with that person. That's what I've always tried to do. And it does take some skill, and it might take some time. So just be careful out there. But I thought that this was one worth sharing with everybody. And I thought it was a really cool thought. And I think it really ties a lot of things together that I believe in. And I think a lot of you guys might resonate with this too. So sit with that and think with that for yourself for a little while. And let me know what you think. All right, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next one.